Hi friends, it's Sam here today, and today we are going to be doing our 2022 eyeshadow palette ranking. I was going back and forth a lot about whether or not I wanted to just do this, and this is a straightforward review of all the palettes that released this year that I tried, or if I wanted to rank them. I feel personally like the ranking situation is kind of lame because based on your own preferences, you would obviously rank it differently, and depending on the day, the time of the year, whatever, I might feel differently about the ranking. I am gonna rank it because I feel like part of me has to, but honestly I think the review part of this video is going to be the part that's going to hold the most value to you guys. So let's get into it. If you are new to my channel, hi, my name is Sam. I do lots of beauty content like this. If you like that stuff, be sure to hit that subscribe button down below along with the notification bell so you can come back and see more content with me. And let's get into this really long video. If you haven't already, grab a snack, a drink, whatever, and let's get in. So at the very bottom of the list, I'm gonna put these Maybelline shadow boxes. Now I will say they are not all created equal. The worst is this one right here, which is the West 4th and 6th Perry Street stack. This is the berry one, so it has like a mauve, a like shimmery burgundy shade, and then another burgundy matte at the bottom. This is literally the worst. I felt like this shadow really did not have any pigmentation on it. The shimmer left something to be desired, and then the only decent shade was the mauve one at the top, and I felt like it was way overpriced for what you get in here. Although I will say this one is not bad. This is the 26th 6 Madison Ave stack. I will say the green in here is really quite nice, and I think it's okay. It's not amazing. I do really like this shimmer that it has in here. It's kind of like a transparent base with like some sparkle, but if you like a look that's very like minimal, that gives you kind of like a wet feel, this one is quite nice. And then on the top it's just like a matte ivory. I really enjoy this one over the Maybelline one. I'm gonna keep this one I am gonna declutter, but it's not like the best, but I do think it's decent. I think it's cute. I think if you're traveling, if you are on a budget, if you like something that's just a little less pigmented, because not everybody likes something that's very, you know, deep and in your face, I think this is okay, but it's really not the best of what I have this year. I will also say that some things I've decluttered because they were just so horrible. So if I've kept it this long, chances are that I felt like it was okay at the very least. So the next thing is the ColourPop all amethyst palette. I think I talked about this in my worst of 2022. I just felt like this left something to be desired. The shimmers in here are very dry. Even the mattes are kind of hard pressed. Like, you can get it to work, but it takes some effort. And I just feel like ColourPop has so many eyeshadow palettes, and so many of them that are really good. I don't understand why it can't always be so consistent. I keep telling myself I'm gonna take these pans out, and then I don't know what I'm actually gonna do with this one, but I definitely wouldn't recommend you picking it up. The next one is the Makeup Revolution Clueless Tie palette. I like this because I'm a big fan of Clueless. It came out when I was a teen, and this is what the palette looks like on the inside. I feel like the mattes in here are actually pretty decent, but the shimmers are hot garbage. Like, literally, they have this like weird putty texture to them, and then when you glide them onto the eye, they just are very dull. The shine is not there, the metallic's not there. I feel like for a formula that feels really wet, should give you a wet effect, but it doesn't do that at all. The next one is the Dunkin' Donuts dozen. I thought these were pretty good for the price point. I think these are decent for the price point, but I'm not gonna reach for these really ever. The only reason why I'm really holding on to them is because they're adorable, and I really like the packaging here with like the box. But they're okay. Like if this is what you like, or if you have like a teenager who wants just like a little 4-pan, you want something inexpensive, I do think these are good. But like, I just, as in the grand scheme of things, if I wasn't doing YouTube, I probably wouldn't have picked these up. The next one is the Care Bears Wet n Wild palette. Now, I really love this palette. I did a video, I think I did a video on the Dunkin' Donuts one, the ColourPop one, and I did a video on this Care Bears one, and I really like this palette for the price point. If I was comparing it, like I'm comparing it to lots of other really amazing palettes, it's not going to be the quality of high-end, and that's just the way it is. But it is really cute, and the colors show up nicely, they blend nicely, the shimmers are nice. This is a little bit drier. The other reason why it's so low too, there's some pressed pigments in here. I don't do that. Yeah, there's 2 pressed glitters in here, which are not my vibe. So for that reason, it's kind of lower on the ranking of things. So the next one is the On the List palette. Now this is a good palette. This has decent quality, but it's down here because the color story for me is just not my favorite. I'm not gonna reach for this if I had the choice to reach for some of the other ones. It's just a little, I feel like it's what you expect from ColourPop, the same old, same old. I do really love like these 2 like green mattes here. Those are amazing because you just don't get colors like this one, especially like every day. So I really do enjoy this. But yeah, it's just very forgettable. That's pretty much what the problem is with that one. The next palette is another ColourPop, and there's going to be a trend. There's a lot of ColourPop here, and I feel like next year or this year I'm gonna have to be a little less impulsive when it comes to ColourPop purchases, because they come out with so many things and I feel tempted to get everything, or I get myself a little obsessed over things, and I just really need to remind myself that I have lots of ColourPop and they tend to be repetitive. But this one's a different one. This is the Limelight palette from ColourPop, and although I do like this palette, I love the greens, I just feel like this shade right here is the darkest shade, and it's pretty much my exact skin tone, which is not dark enough. I want something with more depth, and yeah, it's just a little light for a green palette. Like, it's very light for a green palette. When I hold it next to my face, you can tell. Now, if I was like a light skinned person, maybe this would seem like, you know, oh, it goes from light to deep, but I don't think for somebody of my complexion that this goes anywhere close to deep enough. That for me is a crease shade. So I just like, I have to pull in another palette to make this like do something for me. So the next one is the So Fly palette. This was like part of this, I don't know, kind of like bug collection that they had, and I thought for some reason this was gonna make me think of the butterfly collection that they had a couple years ago that I love so much, but this just didn't hit the mark for me. The color stories again are just very neutral and dull. They get a pop of color here and there, but they just don't, they end up being very forgettable for me. So for that reason, again, that one's not ranking that high. We're gonna follow that up with the ColourPop Wannabe palette. This was from the same collection. This one was like the browns neutral one, and I do like this, but I feel like you'll see later on that another palette has kind of hold my heart as far as neutrals goes. This just doesn't completely do it for me. I feel like, again, it's very forgettable. Now the next palette is kind of sad to me, but I feel like if I'm being really honest to myself, this is where it belongs. It is the ColourPop Winnie the Pooh Sweet as Can Be palette. I love this packaging. I think it's really adorable, and they did everything right. It's just, and the color story is actually really beautiful. The problem for me is that the quality is okay. This isn't like the most amazing ColourPop formula. I feel like it's a little drier than I would have liked. It is doable and it works well, and I do love the palette. I'm gonna hold on to it. I just feel like the quality could have been a little bit better. There's some ColourPop palettes that came out this year that blew me away with quality, and this just was like slightly missing the mark. I did film a video on this, so if you're curious, you can just search it on my channel. And then the one just above that is the Glow Getting. This is the third one from that bug theme one, and this one ranked a little bit higher just because the color story was slightly more creative. So you have like a pink here, there's a silver, there's a mint, and then you got this gray and the browns. I feel like, and that yellow right there in the center is just a little bit more creative. I think I did film a video with this as well, and I do like this. It also has this really cool like taupey brown, and I love colors like that. This year I've really been into like the metallics, the ones that are a little grungier, the little more that remind you more of like metals. And I just really think this one just was amped it up just a little bit because of the color story. The next one, I really fought back and forth about where this one was going to land. And it is the Poison Garden 2 palette from, what do they call it? Beauty Bar? I really wish the brand name was on here, but I picked this up a while ago because I really wanted to try a new brand, and this is what the inside of the palette looks like, and I thought it was really, really beautiful. Here's the deal. I was gonna do a video with this. I actually started it and did like 2 looks, and I did like 2 looks. I wanted to do 3 looks with the palette, and then I just kind of was like, no, I can't do it. I don't even think I finished filming the second look because the mattes are just way too thin. You really, really have to build them up, and it just takes way too long. They kind of blend away very easily as well. The shimmers are stunning, and that's why it landed itself above some of these other ones. But to be honest, if I was doing it just thinking about the mattes, it would have went way lower. They ended up blowing up after this palette with like a palette after this, and like everybody is a big fan of them, and I've been very hesitant to try any of those palettes because of this one. I feel like I wonder if anybody had tried this palette before those ones and felt like it was the same quality. I don't want to take the chance because their prices are not exactly the most affordable, and I never reach for this one. Although the shimmers are beautiful, if I can't use the mattes in it, it feels very like, I don't really love to take 2 or 3 palettes to do a look. Sometimes I do, but I don't go in with the intention to do so. So I don't know. This one is like, it's a disappointment. I feel like part of me wanted to rank it a lot lower, but I have to admit that the shimmers are like amazing in here. And yeah, the next palette is the Beauty Bay Love Notes palette. Now I do love the formula of Beauty Bay, and I did a video with this palette, and I do like this palette. The only reason why I ranked it so low on the list is because the color story is not my favorite, and I haven't found myself to go back and reach out for this palette because I have some of these shades in other Beauty Bay palettes. Because I have so many Beauty Bay palettes, it's like if I want this a certain shade that's in here, I could probably find it in one of the other palettes, and so this one kind of gets forgotten. I do enjoy it. Again, it's beautiful. It's just not my ideal color story because it is very light. I feel like if you have light to medium skin, this is like a better palette for you. And I do think it goes pretty deep. I don't know. I have other Beauty Bay palettes with similar shades in them that are deeper, darker. And the next one is a huge disappointment, but I do feel like part of me, I like it better than the other ones. We'll get into it. All right, the next one is the Natasha Denona Pastels palette. I do feel like part of me feels like this was a little bit of a disappointment. I do like it, and I do think, you know, I can make it work. It works well, but is it my favorite? No. The color story is a little for me. I feel like it is supposed to be a pastel palette, but I would have liked a few darker shades in here, or at least one darker shade in here. I also feel like for pastels, I've seen better at a lower price point. They're not horrible, but they're not like the best. And so for this price point, I just can't rank it any higher than it is. I think we're on number 42, and I am ranking the Tom Ford Quad in Tiger Eye. This is the cream quad that released this year. I'm just taking off the plastic. And I got this from an influencer box. And I don't think I did a video on this because of the fact that I got it from an influencer. But I really enjoyed this palette and I like the colors. This has been a really good palette for like quick everyday out the door kind of one and done look or something. But it is kind of, I think if I had to buy this, it's unimpressive for the price point. And I also think that the colors are just a little boring. So if I was paying for this on my own money, I probably would have ranked it even lower. But I tried to keep that in mind. Like if I was buying this, where would it be? So I feel like 42nd place out of 55 isn't too bad. But it, you know, it's just, it is what it is. The next one is the Juvia's Place Culture Palette. I did not review this when it came out, although I did pick it up when it came out because there was some controversy going on with Juvia's Place. But I just feel like this palette is just way too big for what it is. I don't feel like it was necessary to have all the shades that are in here. And I feel like the palette, the Walhalla palette 2, was so much better that I kind of like expected more from this palette, and it kind of let me down just a little bit. Also, I'm not a huge fan of this color block situation. I like the mask, but yeah, I don't love the rest of this. So yeah, it's like the packaging, the formula is fine, but I just didn't love the color story, the packaging, the sizing of the packaging. So it kind of just kept bringing itself lower and lower on the list. The next one is the Diamond of the First Water from Pat McGrath. This was the first Bridgerton palette, I believe. And she's cute. She works really well. I did a video with this one and I do think the quality is good and I like the palette. I just feel like it's kind of boring in the grand scheme of all the palettes that I have, and I haven't found myself to reach for this. The next one is a palette that blew me away from the drugstore, and it's the Milani Gilded Flora palette. I think the color story in here is really, really nice. I also feel like the quality in here is really, really nice. It has a mirror and everything. The packaging is like the perfect size. I think this is a great palette. I just, you know, I have other palettes that I do like a little bit better, but I feel like this was a really, really good palette if you are shopping at the drugstore. I just have to rank it where it is because I do like some of the other ones a little bit more, but that's really what it comes down to. I think this is a great palette. I feel like most of the ones that we're going to talk about next is really good quality. It's just matter of like, what am I going to reach for a little bit more often than others? And because I have so many other really good palettes, this one is probably less likely to be grabbed, but I do think it's an amazing palette and I wouldn't want to discount it. I feel like that's the problem with this ranking situation, is like, I don't want to discount a palette for how good it actually is just because I have, you know, palettes that are far more expensive and far better quality. But it's like, this isn't bad. This is not bad whatsoever. Like if I had to use this for like a whole month straight, I wouldn't be mad at anybody. I'd be like, okay, that's fine, you know. So I feel like from this point on, it's gonna really be all about color story, because I'm looking at my stacks of palettes and I don't feel like any of them are bad. So it's going to be really just based on color story, preference, stuff like that. So this is the new Celestial Nirvana palette. This was the holiday palette from Pat McGrath this year. And she's cute. She's colorful. She's bold. She has a lot of neutrals. I like this palette. The pigmentation is there. I just feel like it's so bulky and the color story is not my favorite. Like I'm not huge into pinks like that. I'm not into purples like that. I don't know. I felt like, I don't know, it was kind of a disconnect, and I could see myself using smaller palettes. Like if it was a 6pan like that, I'd probably like it more. Same with this and this. Like I don't, yeah. That's all I'm going to say. I don't know what else to say. Now we're going to talk about the Anastasia Beverly Hills Nouveau palettes. This was actually a really good palette. I really had fun using this. My qualm with this palette here is the fact that it is too light. I feel like there's no real deep shade in here. This one is a shimmer. I can use it. I don't mind that, but like it's not ideal. And I also wish there was at least two. I don't want it to just be one out of all these shades, to have one outer corner or deepening up shade when I have 6 different crease shades. That doesn't make no sense to me. So yeah, for that reason, it's landed where it is. I wish it was just a little bit deeper. The next palette we're going to talk about is the Beauty Bay Dark Fantasy palette. Again, I love Beauty Bay's formula. I think this is a great palette. Very deep, dark, grungy. But the color story does feel a little disconnected for me. I wish like this blue wasn't here. I feel like that changes it up a little bit. Like I do like greens, but maybe we can lose this Kermit green in the middle. Like I just feel like some of this could have been changed a little bit for me to like fall in love with it just a little bit more. But I do think this is a great palette. I think I did do a video with this one as well. Most of these palettes I think I have done videos with, so you can probably find any of them on my channel if you're curious to see me actually use them and the quality of it and maybe the looks that I've done. All right, so 35, I think 35 is the Beauty Bay, what's this called, Techno Days palette 1991. I really like this palette. I think it's fun. I ranked it here because I don't commonly wear these bright neon colors, but this definitely is like a companion palette to the pastel palette that they already had, and I love that palette. If you are a tan skin girl and you're looking for a pastel palette, definitely check out the Beauty Bay one. It's an 8-pan like this, and it's really beautiful. I feel like they complement each other really well. But yeah, I love this palette. It's just I don't reach for this color story very frequently. The next one is the ColourPop Play It Cool palette, and I like this palette. I've worn this a bunch for like quick easy work looks or date night when we're running out the door very quickly because it's unexpected. I like this palette a lot. I just have others so similar, but this is really good quality. I wish like the Winnie the Pooh one was probably done in this formula, or any of the other ColourPop ones were done in this formula. I don't understand why they can't have the same formula in all the palettes, but need I say more? The next one is the Patrick Ta Major Dimension 2 palette. This is slightly above the ColourPop one because I do think that the ColourPop one is not as good as this. I do see that the formula is amped up in this palette. You can see I had a casualty at one point, but she's a beautiful palette. I just ranked it at this point compared to other palettes because it is very boring to me. Like it's nice, it's more alive than some of his other palettes, but it is kind of like neutral and simple, and we've seen 100 of these palettes come out this year, so it ended up being very boring to me. Also, these creams here do crease, so yeah, that's not ideal. You kind of the whole purpose of doing your makeup so it looks good, why would you want creasing in your shadow? So that's not ideal. I do feel like it looks nice when you put it on, but it just doesn't hold its shape or stay in place very well. So okay, the next one is the ColourPop 3CPO palette. I love this palette. I did a look with this. I can't remember if I did a video with it. I did a video with Patrick Ta. Did I do a video with this one? I don't remember at this point, but I love this palette. I have done looks with this, and I think if I was picking like a bronzy neutral palette, this is the one I'm going to reach for over and over and over again. That's why the Wannabe one ranks so low, because this one just blew it out of the water. The quality in this is just a little bit better as well. So it's just like, it is what it is. If I'm going to go for something very simple and plain, I'm going to reach for this one over the others. The next palette are kind of like, I'm kind of equating them to the same place because they came in a collection. These are the Colored Rain Botanical Collection palettes. There's the Botanical and then the Rose Garden, but I believe the collection was called the Botanical collection. And this is the Botanical one. I feel like one is the for the deeper skin tone and one is for the lighter, but they do complement each other very, very well. They're like similar in a way, but different enough. Yeah, so you can see that there's similarities between the two, but they're different enough that it's like you could do one or the other, but if you have them both, you can complement each other with mixing them together. I did a video with these when they first came out in the beginning of the year. I was freaking blown away by the quality in these. This was the first time that I tried Color Rain, and it's really made me interested in other palettes, although I haven't picked up any more from them. It's like maybe I need to get off the ColourPop train and get on the Color Rain train. I don't know. That's what I'm thinking. The next one is the ColourPop Tinkerbell palette. This is an adorable palette. They got everything right with this. The packaging, the color story on the inside, and the quality is there. I love this palette. I think it's absolutely beautiful. It has this like dark, deep raisin kind of shade here that I just absolutely am obsessed with. And love this palette. The next palette is the Glaminatrix Nocturnal palette. I like the packaging on here, but I did have a casualty fall out of the palette, and that was quite disappointing. I waited a really long time to get this palette, which, I mean, I know with the indie brands it's really hard, but to wait a very long time for the palette and then for the shadow to break after just like a couple uses, that was heartbreaking because I didn't like drop it or anything like that. So that was tough. Also, the shimmers in here are more like toppers. They don't really have a good base to them, which is why I think that one just fell apart. So makes me really sad, and I get tempted. They had that nearly neutral palette that I really was like intrigued about, but having that happen makes me kind of hesitant to go and like order that one. So let me know what you guys think. If you guys have the Glaminatrix palettes, do you feel like it's a different formula? Does it hold up different? I just don't want to take the chance and be disappointed again with my money, you know? All right, the next palette is the Natasha Denona Retro Glam palette. I love this packaging, and I did do 2 looks, I think, with this palette. Maybe not. I did film a video with this palette, and it's cute. It just doesn't go deep enough. I wish this shade was deeper and maybe a matte, and I also wish it just had at least one more deeper, darker shade in here. It just doesn't go deep enough for my complexion, and for that reason it's kind of placing where it is. I don't know, I just kind of expected more from her this year, and I've been left with a poor taste in my mouth. I just feel like out of 3 palettes that she released this year, only one of them was able to work for my complexion, and that's disappointing. Like the pastel one, I can make it work, but like it didn't feel like it was for me. The next palette is the Angelica and Odin's Eye palettes. This is the Hella palette. This, if you see my video on this palette, then you already know how I feel, and I made comments along the way. I love Angelica. I love the packaging of the palette. I love the color story. It is a beautiful, beautiful color story. My problem is I don't like the mattes. And we've been through this with the Bella Beauty Beauty Bar palettes. If the mattes don't work well, I'm not going to be obsessed over it. So for that reason, this one just ranks a little bit lower. I have found how to work with this a little bit better. You know, my normal technique is not the ideal technique to make this work for me, so that's definitely part of it, right? But I don't like the idea that I have to change up my style just to make one particular palette work for me, and for that reason I put it a little bit lower. But you know, it is a beautiful palette. The shimmer shades are beautiful in here. It's just that disconnect for me with the mattes, which surprises me so much because Angelica is just like obsessed with matte eyeshadows. But maybe she has just, her technique is just a lot better than mine. I don't know. I feel like I can make everything else work. So the next is the Unearthly Cosmetic Sleepover Palette. This year I bought a lot of Unearthly Cosmetic palettes. I have 2 of her newer ones that I haven't been able to touch because we've been doing all the end of the year type video stuff, but I definitely hope to play with them soon. And then she released some that were limited edition. By the time I received them, they were already out of stock. So I haven't done a lot of videos with their palettes, but I did do a video with this one, and I absolutely love this. I love this like brownish brick red shade here, the black with the purple shimmer. I think this is beautiful. I feel like I could actually use like this shade as a highlighter. It's gorgeous, and I think her packaging is just the bomb. Like, she really gets the packaging right every single time. That's what I love about the brand. I feel like she does a really good job from the beginning to the end of the product. I haven't found anything that I don't like. The next palette is the Bella the Ball palette. This is the Pat McGrath Bridgerton. I think this is the second one, and I love these 2 metallics in here. Are absolutely beautiful, and this blue shade. This one is a lot more creative than the other one. If you had to pick between them, I would always go with this one. I don't think this is available anymore. I think it was a limited edition, but you can be surprised. I don't know, Pat McGrath be having stuff come out and then come out again and then go on sale, and I don't know what's going on over there. But yeah, I like this palette a lot. I think it's really, really pretty. This one just ranks higher than the other one because it's a little bit more creative. Although I will say I'm not a huge fan of these like satin mattes. They're pretty, but I don't know. There's something about it that's just not my favorite. Next is the Gemini palette from Melt Cosmetics. I think my problem with this palette also was that I waited too long. I waited too long. I wanted the Gemini palette forever. Did not get it the initial launch. Then it was gone forever. All of a sudden I made this resurrection. I purchased it. Love the color story. The formula is good. I just think that I don't know. I haven't really reached for it. I feel like I wanted it and I wanted it and I wanted it, and I don't understand why I haven't reached for this palette. It's absolutely beautiful. I will say that the shimmers in here are a little thick and they kind of feel like dimethicone. They're not like my favorite shimmers, but they do work really well. The next little batch, it's like I don't really want to rank them separately because I feel like they're all kind of equal. They're all like kind of boring in their own way. They're all like really good quality, but just boring. So I'm gonna rank these all in the same spot. All right, I have an eyelash in my eye and there's no way I'm getting it out right now, so that sucks. All right, so the next one is the Viseart Macaroon 4 Lavender palette, and this is what she looks like. I did a video on this. This is really cute. I just don't wear purples like that much. So it's like great quality, really, really cute. I love the packaging on here. I think it's really ideal for like traveling and stuff like that. I just don't see myself pulling this one up. Yeah, I just feel like this is definitely like a companion piece. It's not an overall palette. The next 2 are Natasha Denona. This is kind of all in the same section. This is the Mini Crush and then the Biba. I would say the Biba is below the Mini Crush because it's very boring and only has 1 shimmer. It's all mattes. These 2 kind of are the same tone. It's like you're creating 2 looks that look almost exactly the same as each other. So it's just kind of like, okay, you got 2 deepening shades, 2 mid-tone shades, and 1 shimmer. I don't understand that. This one's a little bit more complex. It has a range, so you can kind of bounce around between the shimmers and stuff like that, but it's still like not my favorite. The Love palette from last year, the deeper shade in there goes deeper than this one, so I just feel like it missed the mark on bringing us the depth. And then above those are this little Pat McGrath palette. This is the Midnight Voyage. I think this is great for like a mini palette, a beginner user. Maybe you're just wearing this for traveling. I think it's cute. I like it a lot. I don't think it's great for the price points, but although it is a very similar price point to the Natasha Denona. All right, now we're getting close to the top. The next one is the Beauty Bay Midnight palette. This is the blue and purple one. really, really cute. I love this metallic silver in here and the black. I think it's really cute. I did do a video on this. I love this palette. I think it's really good. And that's what I mean about the Love Notes palette. Like if I'm looking for a purple, I might reach for this over that. If I'm looking for a pink, I'm going to reach for the next palette, which is the Berries palette. I think this is really adorable too. I'm not really into pinks, but I feel like when I wear this palette, it makes me into pinks. And I would pick this over the Patrick Ta, over the ColourPop one. There's so many berry palettes. I feel like this one just gives you something different because there's like peachy colors, peachy shades in here, coral shades in here, berries. The range of pinks is a little bit more versatile in here. The size is great. Love this a lot. I also have the Earthly palette, and that's going to rank higher because green is one of my favorite colors. And again, the range in here is absolutely beautiful. And they give you the cool tones and the warm tones. You get a variety in here, and I really, really love that about this palette. The next palette are kind of interesting to me. So this one is the Natasha Denona Mini Bronze palette. I really like this. I like this one better than the other two, the Biba, the Mini Biba and the Mini Crush one. I just feel like this is a little bit more suitable to my complexion. This deepening shade, it goes there for me. So yeah, I like this one a little bit better. It only has one shimmer in it, so again, you're not going to get that many looks out of this little mini palette, but that's fine. I do just prefer this color story than the others. But this one is the Essence Coffee Glow palette, and I find it to be quite similar to that Natasha Denona one as far as the color story, and the quality in here is really surprising to me. The mattes are really, really stunning, and the shimmers are really good too. I've tried some Essence shadows, and I just feel like the formula in here is a lot better than some of the other ones. Yeah, they have that shade there in the corner too I haven't used, but it's like that balm that's kind of like in the Huda Beauty Naughty palette. So that's pretty interesting that they did something like that at the drugstore. So I really like that. The next one is the Charlotte Tilbury Pillow Talk. This is the Pillow Talk Dreams, and I love this palette. This is really, really great for like one and done. I could just go into one of these shimmers and just wear it by itself, but if I want to, I can add the matte. And it's really, really beautiful. It suits my complexion great. I think I did a video with this. I may have not, but I'm pretty sure I did. And I love this. I think it's really cute, compact. The packaging is nice. I wish the Tom Ford was this. That's kind of like when I was kind of ranking things, that's kind of what I was thinking. I wish the Tom Ford was like this. The next one is the Glam Light Barbie palette. I think this is a really beautiful palette. I like the range of blues and purples in here because they're mixed with the pinks and the other colors. Like most of the shades in here, I feel like I wouldn't wear them normally on their own. Like a purple look, not my favorite. A all blue look, not my favorite. A pink look, not all my favorite. But because you get the range of all the variations together, and with these neutrals, it makes it a little bit more accessible or relatable for myself personally. So I really like this. Glamlight does not disappoint with their color stories. They don't disappoint with their formula. The only actually downside about this palette is that I do wish there were a couple lighter shades in here, because right there you can kind of see true to color. There's not really a light shade for like an inner corner or something like that, so you will always have to use like your highlighter or bring in something else to get that inner corner. But I love this, and I love the packaging. Look at it, so cute. Now we're at the end here with the top 10, and I already did a video of the top 10 palettes that I felt of this year, and so I'm not gonna go into the details of the ranking. If you're really curious about the rank, you can go to that video. I'm not gonna go in crazy detail over the palettes. I'm just gonna show you them so that they're all archived in this one video for the 2022 palettes that I use. But we have the Michaela Palette Pot 2, and this is what she looks like. We have the Star Wars palette from ColourPop, and this is what he looks like. We have the Star Wars Darth Vader palette. This is what they look like. We have the Scooby-Doo palettes, the Roro Raggy and the Creeps and Crawls palette. This is the Creeps and Crawls, yep. And then we have the Roro Raggy, which is this one right here. We have the Heather Austin palette with Adept Cosmetics, the Lisa Eldridge Sorcery palette. the Anastasia Beverly Hills Rose Metals palette. This is my number one for the year. I will let you know that. And the Lisa Eldridge was either second or third. Then we have the Frosted Flakes from Glamlight. The Avatar palette with Color Pop. Did I speak English the first time? I don't know. Natasha Denona My Dream Collection palette. This is the only one this year that I could not stop using, that I felt was really worth purchasing. The Moonlight Seduction palette from Pat McGrath. I'm not going to take it out of the box. It's too much trouble. And the Huda Beauty Empowered palette. Love this palette. Amazing. So those were all the palettes that I've held on to for the year 2023. I did purposely exclude the Hin Dash Monochromance palette because it's more of a face palette in my mindset. I did a video on a good amount of these: the Avatar, the Frosted Flakes, the Scooby-Doos, the Rose Metals, the Empowered, the Lisa Eldridge My Dream Collection, and the Darth Vader one. If you're curious to see any of those, they are on my channel here. And yeah, those were my palettes for 2023. I hope this was helpful. I feel very conflicted about the whole ranking situation. I feel like there's this pressure to rank like what's the best palette, but it's all preferences. It feels very juvenile to me to be like number 10, number 9, number 8. It's like these are my favorite 10 and they're amazing. The fact of the matter is that makeup is all about preferences, and you're gonna have different preferences than I do. You're gonna love a matte in a palette that I'm gonna hate. I'm gonna love a matte in a palette that you're gonna hate. I mean, like Beauty Bay alone, that's a whole controversy sometimes. It's like some people love Beauty Bay's formula like myself, and some people absolutely hate it. They feel like it's creasy and hard to blend and they can't layer colors on each other. I've heard all of that, and I don't see any of that. I'm like, I don't have any of those problems. What are you talking about? So it really is all about preferences, and I feel like my input to you guys is valuable, but you do also need to like take in consideration what your preferences are, what you like, also what kind of eyelids you have, because I have very oily eyelids. I have a very deep set crease on my lid. I almost have like a hooded monolid situation with my lids. You might not have that problem. You might live in a warm climate. I live in a pretty cool climate here in New England, and vice versa. So you got to take different things into consideration. Also, there's just certain brands that I love that other people might not like. That was a left blabbering. If you've stayed this long in the video, I just want to say thank you for hanging out with me, spending your time with me. I know you could be doing lots of other things. And again, Happy New Year 2023. Let's make better choices here. Until next time, love you guys. Bye.